Now I talk to founders who are asking for advice, and it's like they haven't even built the product. And they're like, exit strategy. I'm like, wow, girlfriend. Wow, we were different.
The idea of making an exit can bring out all kinds of reactions in founders. Some never want to think about it. Others are putting a target sale price into their launch plans. Wherever you fall on the exit strategy spectrum, today's founder group chat has something for you. I'm Graham Winfrey, and this is The Business Model. For our final roundtable on scaling a business, Ariela Safira, Fany Gerson, and LaFleur are back to talk exits. Zeera and Fanny are still running their companies, but Ariela has already completed an exit on her mental health startup, Zeera. We hear the inside scoop on her exit after a short break.
This podcast is brought to you by IHG Business Edge, where small and mid-sized businesses unlock exclusive savings at more than 6,600 IHG hotels and resorts worldwide. Visit businessedge.ihg.com to learn more.
So, Ariela, you're the one founder here who has been through the exit process. Talk about what you were thinking in terms of the ultimate goal for your business in the early years, and did you have an exit strategy when you wrote your business plan?
No, certainly not. And I didn't think there was ever an end. I was just obsessed with solving mental health care, working on mental health care, and had, to an extent that someone could fairly call me naive. I was just a teen. I'm so excited and passionate about working on this, not thinking of there's no end. We're going to do this forever. To the point that when those conversations came up sooner, I really responded from a place why would I ever stop doing that? This is what I'm supposed to do. And I think some part of that is helpful or true, which is I personally am very passionate about mental health care. I am still really passionate about it and still want to work on it. The passion that I have for mental health care is different than the business that is created. And when I look back, I think that advice would have been, it certainly was offered to me by that advice, but I was just so blind and pretty obsessed with how do we solve this, and would, frankly, just a lot of exhaustion from the company, and realizing that there's still the Ariela Safira who loves mental health care and wants to work on it. She still exists, and that is still real, separate from this business exiting, was a new realization for me 5 years in. And that's what ultimately would lead to us selling. But no, in the beginning, I know founders, now I talk to founders who are asking for advice, and it's they haven't even built the product. And they're like, exit strategy. I'm like, wow, girlfriend. Wow, we were different.
So how did you make that turn from never want to sell?
Yeah. To be honest, to be real, burnout was a big part of it. And being burnt out, we had also had to do a number of layoffs, and I did not have the backbone to keep going after so many. So I think the real story is just I was just a human on the other side of it, being I don't know how much longer I could. I don't know if I can do another year of this right now, let alone 5, 10, et cetera. And we were, up against, we were going to do a fundraise, which is a real marker of so you're signing up for 5 to 10 more years, if not 100. And I know what I'm like when I'm fundraising, ready to spend the rest of my life on this. And also investors know what I'm like when they meet me who's ready to do this forever. So I felt it was pretty evident in the journey of could I really look someone in the eyes right now and say I'm going to give 10 more years to this? No, I will give 1 million more years to mental health care, but I really need a break right now. And that's sort of the shortened summary version. And we're fortunate that I worked out with timing and had a board who supported, and were certainly along for the ride, including the exhaustion and burnout that came with it. But I did not go into the experience thinking that, I didn't think beyond the next day sometimes I wasn't even thinking of the next day.
Did you field unsolicited interest, or did you have to go out and say, we're up for sale?
We fielded unsolicited interest. Over the years I did. It's funny, I'm still young, but I was really young when I was 24 when I started the company. So I think of times that people reached out to acquire the company, and I took part in those conversations, didn't quite understand. Again, my brain was so on like, but I'm doing this forever. So like, what do you mean you'd want to acquire? Like, what does that even mean? And part of it was truly like, I didn't go to business school. So I was like, literally, what do you mean? What does that mean?
Let me look it up.
I was like learning what churn meant as well. Like we were really figuring out business 101. Yeah, so it was, we like had, at that point, there were a number of people we had conversations with. So it wasn't by any means a fresh new effort we've talked to many of these people before and knew what they were interested in, what they weren't interested in, which allowed the process to be faster than maybe it otherwise would have been.
Fanny, you've had several different ventures. How do you think about the future in Newyorkina?
Oh, I mean, as we were talking before, a lot of it is more in a personal way. Like, do we have to leave the country? So now that changes everything, and it's, but we don't want to close the businesses. So what are the different options? And we've looked, a lot of people have offered us through the years, like franchising. I don't like the franchising model.
Because of quality assurance issues?
Okay. Exactly. But we've also been offered licensing overseas. So those are things that we're exploring now, like, in places like Japan and I would maybe open in Mexico City, and sort of see, okay, what are the parts of the businesses? So right now it's sort of, we're doing the opposite. Instead of scaling, we're editing and we're tightening, and kind of, okay, let's see where we're at and what does that look like in a personal level. And I never thought about it in exiting in any scenario. Is more, this is something that maybe our son could inherit if he wanted to, but then he may have his own, like my dad had a family business, kind of those things. And he's going to have his own passions and things. But it was sort of something that we could give, because also it's, for us, it's not just like the product. It's what are the values and the things, the organizations that we support. So if we, we're exploring options. Do we maybe partner up with a different restaurateur or operator here? So, but right now we're trying to sort of tighten and, evaluate in a personal level, like the healthcare, like as I mentioned before, which is the most important thing, and what would that look like? So we're thinking perhaps of going to Mexico for a year, and kind of test it out. Can the business do back and forth and set up systems? Maybe it's like, oh no, there's a saying in Spanish that's que tenga tienda que la tienda, which rhymes, but basically it's like if you have a store, you better be present. So kind of like you got to be, and we've always been hands-on, so it's setting up these systems, and so we don't know. That's a very long answer to say we don't know. We still always exploring. And I keep going back, like, even if we found a co-packer that could do the quality that we have, that we want, and that we do, I don't know if that's what we want. There's days that I wake up, I'm like, we could totally be the Mexican Häagen-Dazs. Häagen-Dazs is amazing in the sense you find it in a deli or you find it in like very high-end supermarkets. They have this, and it's consistent and it's great. And very few people have been able to sort of do it that way. You have sort of like the high-end, gourmet ice creams, and then you have the more, but this is sort of like taps a lot of different ones. But I love hospitality. And so while on the one hand, I would want everybody to be able to get these paletas everywhere in the country or maybe even further, there's so many points because there's so many breaks in the chain of cold, the cold chain, that there's a possibility that when you get your paleta, it's not a good experience. And it's not because the product is bad, but because
Melted and refroze.
it melted and refroze.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so where's that? You're detached from the customer,
Yeah.
And so that's another aspect, because it's like a whole different business, And I've also I met this woman who has this really delicious ice cream called Dolcezza in DC. And I took a financial literacy course last year with the James Beard Foundation, and she gave a presentation, and she's like sort of like the ideal. She has, I think, 5 or 6 shops in DC and makes her own ice cream. But then she did a co-packer. She went through a co-packer, and she was nationwide in, I don't know, like 1,000 stores, like really, and it was all self-funded. And I saw it when I was trying to decide whether to pull out of Whole Foods or not, knowing in my heart that it was the right decision. And after her presentation, I said, I am gonna pull out, because even though she had the best case scenario, and she talked about how much money she had to spend just on promotions, because you have to have these, when you have sales. Not the slotting fees, which is also a thing. Like when you go to the supermarket, there's these things, for those who may not know. There's a reason why you always see the same product, right eye level or right when you're exiting all over the country, because they pay to be there. And so those are slotting fees and for people to go. But then there's a separate promotional things. And I can't remember the number, but it was something like $500,000. And I said, if you have to how much ice cream do you have to sell to just make up for that? That's money you won't, the margins are very low. And so I saw her a few months later, and I said, thank you, and she said, oh, I didn't want you to make a decision based. I said, no, it was good. And she told me this thing, again, she was top of the mountain, amazing. Her co-packer, there was some kind of, I think it was listeria, not in her products, in another line of ice cream cakes, I think.
In the same co-packer facility?
In the same co-packer facility. But the way that normally works is they shut that line down while they do the investigation. But it was a very aggressive person who apparently has a reputation of shutting places down. And they ended up going bankrupt, this co-packer. And all of these companies, all of these ice cream companies, there was Marco's Ice Cream, who was, growing, Jenny's had, all of these companies, and he just didn't have enough coverage. And it was in the beginning of the summer. So they lost millions of dollars worth of products. And I said, I don't have the stomach.
Yeah.
To your point, for this, you're so detached from the control. When it works great, it's amazing. And so I don't think that that's the route. And so sometimes I think, if I went back to Mexico and I did the same thing we're doing, the paletas, and we could just do events,
Yeah.
we could just do big events, because people have huge weddings. And we do a lot of, even now we do a lot of, and that I love to do. We do a lot of collaborations with fashion brands and with liquor companies, spirit companies. And I love that, because it's also, it challenges me in a creative way. And so I think it's more, what do I want to do in my day-to-day?
Yeah.
But sometimes I still wake up and think we could be the Mexican Häagen-Dazs.
You could be. Do you want to be?
Exactly.
You could be.
Exactly.
Sarah, when can we expect the LaFleur IPO?
Oh my gosh. I would never want to go public. I'll start there. But I am, there's so much to say about this. I thought you both gave me so much to think about. And I've definitely both thought exactly what Ariela's thinking. I've definitely thought exactly what Fanny's thinking. I really do love what I do. And I know this sounds like so crazy, but the vision of the company is the world's a better place when women succeed. And our medium just happens to be fashion. And fashion is such a hard category. It's like what people say about acting. If you love anything else, go do that. And it sucks, but I happen to love fashion. And I love the power of transformation that people feel when they find just the right outfit. And I'm like obsessed with that feeling that we can give our customers. Like I was in Georgetown yesterday at our Georgetown store, and I saw that happen right in front of my eyes, where she was like, "Oh my gosh, like look at me," like I didn't know I could look like this. And like, anyway, so I'm obsessed with that feeling. Yeah, so I guess the long story is like I'm in it. For some reason, it's actually not for some reason. I won't tell you why, because I feel ridiculous saying it. But I know I have another like 12 years in me, to be exact.
So 12 years is when the IPO is happening. Okay.
12 years. Within 12 years, I have investors, and I am very serious about wanting them to have a return. So that I do feel strongly about. But I'm very much like separating that from like my willingness to want to, keep showing up every day, I guess. And right now I feel, despite the chaos of the tariffs and all, I feel energized.
When you have a mission as a founder, it's natural to have a drive to keep going, even after you exit. So why did Ariela take a 9-month hiatus after Zeera was acquired? We'll find out after the break.
Simplify business travel with IHG Business Edge. Enjoy guaranteed discounts, flexible booking, and automatic IHG One Rewards Silver Elite status after your first stay. With access to 20 IHG hotels and resort brands worldwide, discover how effortless and rewarding business travel can be. Visit businessedge.ihg.com to learn more.
Ariela, you've been through the entrepreneurial mill. There's a notion that after a matter of time, you're going to start something else because you can't. Talk about your experience with that.
What's your next venture?
I'm excited to create again. I have the, if you call it an illness, whatever it might be. Like I certainly, there's so much I want to make. And I think mental health is a bigger issue today than it was 5 years ago. And for all the good that will come out of AI and our glorious new tech world, I also think there's a tremendous amount of loneliness and just bad that will come from it in terms of our mental health and human connection. So I don't know what I'll be building, but I care a lot about mental health. There's a number of things also outside of like pure obvious mental health and just fun projects I want to create. Don't yet know which one, but I told myself that a board member advised I take 9 months off and like truly fully off. It takes 9 months to make a baby. Like I'm coming back to life after. And I'm currently at month 7. And grateful that I took the advice because 2 months in, I was like, oh, I'm starting a new thing now. And I was ready. I was ready to commit in April to start something new. And I'm very grateful that he really pushed me to not do that. So we'll be enjoying some more time off, like reading books that are not about mental health care and writing without the purpose of having a solution. Just being able to explore.
What was the thing you told us? I love that sentence you said when we were talking before that you said to your brother. The title, it was
move at the speed of handwriting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to keep.
That's a beautiful phrase. I know. I'm going to put that in my head.
Yeah. I mean, I a lot of lessons around when you're not on your phone, your laptop all day. Wow, the brain can be a clear place. And certainly in terms of mental health, can get to know ourselves much more kindly and much more truthfully if we're not in this like on-demand autopilot mentality that we otherwise, I think, can operate in.
Last question for anyone is, we're in such a tumultuous period right now, volatile period right now. But they say that starting new businesses in recessions, challenging times is actually the best time to do it. Is there anything, not that you're going to start a new brand or a new venture right now, but is there anything that makes you think, now's actually a good time to try out some new product or something like that you've been thinking about?
I mean, it's funny that we just talked about like AI being our downfall and then talking about AI, but I am implementing a lot of it at my company. It is incredible, the power of what it is able to do. And
Design-wise, or
no, honestly, like more for like so I do think it just it enables our stylists to work better. Like often when like so much of our work with our customers is picking the right outfit for her so that she doesn't have to worry about it. And our systems used to be like you have to like literally go through their entire order history and like in your head kind of like be like, okay, she already has this, she already has this, blah, blah, blah. And what AI is able to do is like, okay, she owns all of these products, and so like she's more likely to like this kind of item. This works back with that item, and like as a result, the stylists are much more interacting with the customer than she is like staring at a laptop. So I mean that's just like led to enormous efficiencies for us, and so I do feel like it's like this great leap moment. I mean, having had a company for a decade pre-AI and now being in a company where AI is just like so democratized, I like it's I would have had a completely different P&L structure.
This is sort of like when you're in the food industry, you're always thinking, not just in the food industry, but I think very purposefully to reduce waste, or how can you, reutilize this ingredient to do that. And I think that because of what's happening, I have this new goal, as far as I know, maybe there's more out there, but as far as I know, to be the first no food waste donut shop in the country. And I say no food because it can't be no waste, because we do packaging and we do, things. And so there's always like little things. So we have, for example, like signature hot chocolate, and we make croutons out of our donuts, unglazed donuts. And that's something we started, and so it became like a thing. But now it's like so much more purposeful. And so it was really funny because I texted someone, and I ended up texting the wrong Justine that I was trying to. And so it turned out, and she's like, oh, what are you up to? She's like a friend of a friend that was living here, but now she lives in Hawaii, has her own farm. Long story short, I'm going to hire her to help her. I mean, to help me, not help her, to help me as a consulting, because this is a lot of what she does. And so we're working through some problems. So I said, these are some of the things that I'm doing. So for example, like we squeeze a lot of lemons and limes, and some things we're going to be able to do at La Newyorkina as well. Because also we have to think about the regulations that exists, that there's certain things you can and can't do. Depending on your Department of Ag or Department of Health. And so, for example, all the remains of the citrus, we are turning them into syrups that then we turn into something else. And then she's like, oh, well, sometimes but sometimes when you try to save something, you end up wasting more because you waste more time or more energy. But it's sort of to create all these ecosystems that, hey, actually, these chicken farmers love eggshells. Okay, so how can we do, so to create this ecosystem. So right now, because, circular economy. And she says, but not only like to her point, she's like, it's not just about saving, in every way, in the environment or money, but actually to make sure you make money out of these things, because then that becomes also something people want to support or want to talk about.
Can I add one thing?
Please.
I've spent a lot of the past few months thinking about AI and all that it can do for society, and there's a tremendous amount of good it can do and that I believe in. And I also am seeing so many people turn to it and rush to it really thoughtlessly. And just certainly in the venture community, I think every tech company is doing it as quickly as possible. And I see it happening outside of tech as well. When I think of like what everyone can do, certainly if you're a founder or a company leader today, it's like, of course, like you understand your business more than anyone else, and you might be able to identify ways that AI thoughtfully, earnestly is helping the experience you want to create or the returns you want to deliver to shareholders. But what I hope we all can do right now is recognize like this is a really pivotal moment for humanity and society. And we have now witnessed enough waves of technology and how it's really destroyed humans, human connection, relationships, mental health. And so I think what this time can be, if we choose for it to be, is a moment where we show up and stand up for just what is humanity and remembering what it means to build a quality life and a life where like humans interact with humans and feel fulfillment from that. I don't yet have like a recipe or an answer. I don't know if I ever will for like what that can look like for all people. But I think as so many leaders jump in this moment to like immediately wipe out workforces with AI as much as possible, I would encourage everyone to first ask, like, what am I trying to do? And if that's what you're trying to do, great. But I would love for everyone to just ask themselves first, what am I trying to create? What do I want to do with my one life? And let me answer that question before I replace my entire world with a hyper-personalized machine.
Definitely co-sign asking yourself that question before you just leap out and start a new business. Thanks so much to all three of you for being so generous with your time and sharing so many lessons from your entrepreneurial journeys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for tuning in to our first Founder Group Chat series. We'll be back again next Friday with an all-new roundtable, a new host, new founders, and a new topic. The business model returns Monday when Chloe Aiello circles back on this week's big story. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on Inc.'s YouTube channel at youtube.com/Inc. Magazine.